Yes, good evening. My name is Wallace Gator Bradley, and I'm the host of the Bradley Report. This show is presented by United in Peace, Inc. I'm also the president of United in Peace, Inc. The issues for the show is brought to you by none other than the chairman of United in Peace, Inc., my wife, Terry Marsh Bradley. We got a very interesting show we're going to talk about. There's two people in the race for the Republican primary. And who knows, after tonight, it may be only one. We're going to talk about the importance of this natural gas. They don't want to build new homes and new buildings with natural gas. And then we're going to listen to Mayor Brandon Johnson when he gave his speech at the city's 38th Martin Luther King breakfast. So without further ado, let me bring this show to you. Amani, let's go to work.
An ordinance is expected to be introduced to Chicago City Council today that would effectively ban the use of natural gas in most new construction buildings. The so-called Clean and Affordable Buildings Ordinance is aimed at reducing greenhouse gas emissions by establishing emissions standards that favor electric heat and appliances in new buildings.
You know, everybody is talking about that climate change. And we're seeing the weather around the country. I saw yesterday a news story, I believe it was somewhere in Hawaii, where the waves had got so big that they came on this island and tore out all the all the windows from the various businesses. We're seeing what happened in Michigan City, Indiana. I believe they ended up with 3 feet of snow. So I don't know what the ordinance is going to be about. A lot of the people don't fully know, but they're going to discuss it at City Hall on Wednesday. I'll be there. The next thing, Amani, could you run the next piece?
Confused Nikki Haley for House Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi. Trump began mocking Haley for crowd sizes at her rallies. Just think about that. But then he pivoted to discussing the January 6th insurrection and claimed Haley, not Pelosi, was in charge of the Capitol security that day.
You know, when she comes here, she gets like 9 people, and the press never reports the crowds, you know. By the way, they never report the crowd on January 6th. You know, Nikki Haley, you know, did you know they destroyed all of the information, all of the evidence, everything? Deleted and destroyed all of it, because of lots of things. Like Nikki Haley is in charge of security. We offered her 10,000 people, soldiers, National Guard, whatever they want. They turned it down. They don't want to talk about that.
If you look recently, there have been multiple things. I mean, he claimed that Joe Biden was going to get us into World War II. I'm assuming he meant World War III. He said that he ran against President Obama. He never ran against President Obama. He says that I'm the one that kept security from the Capitol on January 6th. I was nowhere near the Capitol on January 6th. But, Margaret, you don't be surprised if you have someone that's 80 in office. Their mental stability is going to continue to decline. That's just human nature. I don't know if he was confused. I don't know what happened, but it should be enough to send us a warning sign.
Okay, and as Lemire pointed out, President Biden's campaign drew attention to Trump's mistake, writing on X, Twitter, "I don't agree with Nikki Haley on everything, but we agree on this much. She is not Nancy Pelosi," and posting this video montage.
Last night, Trump is at a rally.
You know, Nikki Haley.
And he's going on and on mentioning me multiple times as to why I didn't handle January 6th better.
Nikki Haley is in charge of security. We offered her 10,000 people. They don't want to talk about that.
I wasn't in office then. They're saying you got confused.
You have voter ID to buy a loaf of bread. You have ID to buy a loaf of bread. What? What is? I'm driving over a road where it's almost all paper. And you can see paper. I know paper. I know cans. But all the time now we see whales washing up on shore because of the wind. Our veterans don't have cell phones, do they?
He got confused. He got confused and said he was running against Obama. He never ran against Obama.
And we did with Obama. We won an election that everyone said couldn't be won.
Obama he doesn't want to talk about it.
Well, you mean President Biden. So,
don't put our country at risk like this.
I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
I bet you do approve that message. Oh, my God. Jonathan Lemire, first of all.
Trump has stolen the he's too old concern.
Oh, well, yeah.
From Biden.
No, it's gone. It's gone.
I mean,
if they want to bring it up that Joe Biden has a stutter that he's had since he was 14 years old, they can bring that up.
Yeah.
Biden campaign hopes they bring it up. But there's so much here. By the way, voter ID to buy a loaf of bread. He repeats that 3 times, says he's driving over paper. I wrote this almost all paper. Nobody knows what he's talking about because he doesn't know what he's talking about because his mind sometimes just becomes mush. But I've got to say, Jonathan Lemire, that's just brutal. He looked lost. He looked confused. And again, the super extreme MAGA voters, they'll stay with him. They're staying with him through praising every communist Chinese and communist North Korean dictator on the planet. They'll stay with him through an episode of, I don't know if it's early onset of dementia or exactly what it is. They'll stay with him. But swing voters, again, as we've said, as the Biden team said, as J.V. Last said with the Bulwark, the more they see this guy, the more they're going to say, like they said in 2020, no thanks.
Yeah, there are a few things that are ideologically consistent about Donald Trump, but his crazy hatred of windmills and what he thinks they cause, we've had that all along. And he talks about that in nonsensical fashion all the time. And this is, to your point, Joe, the Biden campaign has looked at this race consistently throughout, where they understand that Donald Trump, by far, more than any other Republican, poses, in their estimation, the greatest threat to America. The stakes couldn't be higher with Trump on the ballot. That said, it's also the race they want because they feel like, first of all, Trump's age, that what we're seeing here, the increased confusion, negates what could have been a pretty powerful Republican attack line against President Biden, who's certainly shown no signs of confusion like that, but is someone who is over 80 years old. He can't change his birth certificate. They also think, though, that to your point of a moment ago, some aides told me this earlier, mid last year, that they just feel like Trump had become background noise for so many Americans. Yeah, he's in the headlines for this legal case or that, or he gave this speech or there. But outside of the diehard MAGA base and the Fox News viewers, no one's been really listening to Trump. He's just sort of been in the ether. But now that people are starting to pay attention again as the election year really ramps up, and frankly, in about 48 hours, Donald Trump might be the Republican nominee because the primary could be over. They're going to have no choice but to pay attention. And when they see Trump and they hear Trump and see not just how he's perhaps lost a few steps, but also how his rhetoric has gotten angrier and more dangerous, they do think that's going to turn off those independent swing voters who maybe backed him in 16, broke from him in 20, and sure wouldn't back him again at 24.
And that's what's so interesting here. I know a lot of people want to see Nikki Haley and before wanted to see anybody challenge Donald Trump. The White House is not in that group. Mm-hmm. The White House wants Donald Trump to nail this nomination process down as quickly as possible and wake up young voters, wake up black voters, wake up Hispanic voters who have gone away from him because they will say in focus groups, there's no way Democrats are going to be facing Trump. Again, the disengaged voter is like, no, that guy's never going to be here again. That's not going to be our choice. So the White House has been waiting for this moment to arrive. If New Hampshire is a landslide for Trump and he nails it down, then the White House gets what they want. They get that matchup with the one guy that Joe Biden's team knows he can beat.
Well, because he's done it before, so there's proof. But
you know, that was very interesting, to the point the Republican Party, the MAGA group, even the president, the former president, has been saying because Biden is too old, he can't remember something, he can't remember that. Well, you just heard it. Not from me, I just showed it. And the fact of the matter is this: if that man who wants to be president, Trump, that says on the first day he's gonna be a dictator, and he thought that he ran against Obama because he had so much hate for Obama, to the point that he hates Democrats so much, and he really don't care about women. Y'all done heard what he has done. You see where he's in court with this woman that he had abused and lost a suit where he had to give her $5 million, then came back out and talked about it again, to the point that she had to file another suit on him. To the point that he feel like all women look alike. He mentioned Haley's name so much that at one point I thought that she may have been who she thought she was Pelosi. But you heard out of Haley's mouth. And what's so wild, all the candidates that was running against Trump, all of them said, regardless of the fact that he got 91 indictments or whatever charges against him, the fact that he's been found by a judge that he sexually harassed the woman, the fact that he's about to lose his right to have businesses in New York, they said if any one of those candidates that was running in the Republican primary that's now siding with Trump, they was willing to give Trump a pardon. They was willing to give the insurrectionists people pardons. They feel like, even though they got found guilty, that they're being held as hostages. One of the most wonderful things that I heard this past or last week was the celebration of the Martin Luther King breakfast. Last week, I showed the one that Rainbow Push did. This week, I'm showing you parts of what Mayor Brandon Johnson said at the city of Chicago's 38th Martin Luther King breakfast. And I want you to hear the story, his Martin Luther King story, because it's important that we know our history.
Don't leave that on the table. Come on, y'all, make our brother feel good. Judge Mathis, thank you for your moral clarity. I'd be remiss if I did not, thank, the fine workers that are here today that are protected by Unite Here. So thank you to all of the workers that are here today. And to all of my colleagues, the vice mayor was here, and all of the city council members that are here. Cook County Board President Tony Pronkwinkle was here. Let's acknowledge her and thank her for her leadership. Our state's attorney, Kim Fox, Kwame Raoul, our attorney general, our secretary of state, Alexi Janulius was here as well. It's all of our county commissioners and our state reps and state senators, all of our business leaders, our community organizations. I'm grateful for the labor leaders that are here, Bob Ryder, CFL. Of course, you all know Greg Kelly, the finest looking labor leader in the history of the world. Thank you. Got the vice mayor wearing ascots now to try to look like Greg Kelly. Stacey Davis Gates, president of Chicago Teachers Union, thank you for your leadership. My pastor emeritus is here. Coach Wayne Gordon, thank you, and Ann for your leadership, and of course my new pastors, the Brooks, thank you so much to my Lawndale community. And of course, I'm not here today in this position without the leadership of Reverend Jackson. Thank you so much, man. You're so smooth and so courageous. You know, Reverend Jackson said to me some time ago when he first met me when I was organizing, he said, if you ever just find a barber, you might become mayor of Chicago one day. So, now I get 2 haircuts a week, Reverend. Thank you very much. The first black first lady in the history of the world, you all, Stacey Nicole Rencher Johnson, I love you. Thank you. We were getting up this morning and the snow was coming down, and my wife, in the true Chicago fashion, just started putting out boots and coats and stuff. It never even dawned on her that the kids would be home. This is Chicago, you all. We don't take days off. We just get stronger. Congratulations to you all. But really, thank you, Val, for your efforts and your leadership, and to the entire staff, the city of Chicago, that made this event remarkable. I'll just close with this. You know, there's so much to be said about this particular moment that we're in right now. But I'm so grateful that we have had a prophetic voice, and Dr. King, who not just saw this moment coming, but he also saw the solution for the moment that was coming. You know, it's one thing to dream of possibilities. It's another thing when you are committed to administering the very solutions that can transform not just Black America, but that can transform the world. And all the faith leaders that are here today, the interfaith effort to bring Chicago together, to build a better, stronger, safer Chicago, it's not just possible, but it's happening. And here's how it happened for me. So there was a West Side teacher by the name of Al Raby who was leading this city in a variety of ways. And he invited Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to the city of Chicago to confront the crisis of housing. And with that invitation, when Dr. King showed up in the city of Chicago, he saw the challenges, but he saw the possibilities, and he had a very prophetic, strong pronouncement. And he said, if we can figure it out in Chicago, we can do it anywhere in the world. In the very room that I now occupy, I think it's just prophetic, but it's also divine, that a high school history teacher invited one of the greatest humanitarians to ever walk the planet Earth to the 5th floor, and now the 5th floor is occupied by a high school teacher raising a family on the west side of Chicago. As Gator Bradley would say, you better listen. And so the very
I'm glad the mayor gave me a shout out, because the things that he's saying, I'll make it a point to say you better listen, because we must listen in order to comprehend and to learn. The mayor, this migrant situation, you heard what the governor was saying. The city of Chicago need to let him know what all he can do to help them with the plan. The mayor had a private meeting today with some mayors from the suburbs to get them to take some of the migrants within their cities or their townships. The plan that he's speaking of says Johnson's new plan also includes a greater focus on getting work permits for asylum seekers, some of whom may now be living here longer than the law allows. So if they've been here too long, they become illegal aliens and they could be deported. I guess that's what they said about the law. But one of the mayors, I believe his name is Grasso, he said the question he get is, are these people legal? Yes, they are. But at some point, if they don't go through the process, they're not legal anymore. And after all, it's been some time. There's been over 34,000 asylum seekers have arrived in Chicago and there's no indication that the number of the new arrivals is likely to slow down anytime soon. The fact that the governor in Texas is not sending them here to help become a part of a solution to the immigrant problem. And then you're hearing on the news how the Republicans in the House don't really want the beginning of a solution to the immigrant problem. The Senate, the United States Senate, finally getting some semblance of the beginning of a solution for the immigrant problem for the country. They getting money put together, but then you got the MAGA Republicans that's mad because they got to do it with the help of the Democrats, where it's supposed to be nonpartisan for the betterment of the country. Then you got the super MAGAs or the super right Freedom Caucus in the House that's mad because the Speaker of the House, in order to get legislation passed for the betterment of the country, they mad because he has to get votes from the Democrats in the House. Well, what is he going to do when you got 100 Republicans that don't want to vote with the Speaker, who is Republican, to solve the problem, because their whole thing is we don't want to give the impression like Biden, the president, is doing something for the country. Well, they said the same thing about the infrastructure. They was against the infrastructure bill. It got passed. And then Republicans go home and they tell their constituents, look at what they brought back to the state. And they didn't vote on it. So I'm saying that because this election is very, very important. I want to say I honor, I respect all the mayors that met with the mayors of the city of Chicago to try to find a solution to help with the problem, migrant problem in the state. I applaud the governor for coming out publicly, letting it be known that once the city let him know how he can help them, he's willing to help them. I applaud the county board president. I applaud our state legislative leaders, our congressional legislative leaders that let the president know that they got to bring money and resources to help the migrant problem in the city of Chicago. Without further ado, let me say to you, to God be the glory. That's my story.